Less is more. There's a creative principle that doesn't get talked about enough. Less is more. And not just in art, but in life. When you have less, you work harder. When you're down, you either stay there or you get back up. Resilient people get back up twice as strong. And creativity works the same way. Limitations don't kill ideas, they sharpen them. I learned that firsthand working on my first documentary film called Eyes of the Mothman. At the time, I was collaborating with a VFX artist named Vincent McTiernan, someone who's not just a great artist, but someone I've remained friends with for years. In fact, I'm going to feature him on one of my upcoming Friends of Redline podcasts. Now, back then, we had a scene to recreate. A UFO witness was describing unidentified objects that were hovering over a power plant. So when it came to production, we rented a small plane that had a video window and we flew over the power plant and captured it at pretty high resolution for the time and created kind of plates for the location that we would then bring into post later to add our UFOs. Now, the obvious choice back then would have been what? To go big. Highly detailed flying saucers, lights, panels, something straight out of Independence Day, something flashy. But we made a different creative choice, and it's one that I still remember today because it was so effective. We simplified it. Instead of building a complex model or detailed UFOs, we created these small, tiny, minimal orbs. Clean, subtle, almost understated. And what we focused on was actually selling the illusion, the tracking, the lighting, the shadows, the foreground and background elements, and how they interacted with the newly placed ones. The things your eye feels more than it consciously notices. And the result, it worked fantastic. That clip, way back then, this was probably early 2000s, ended up on YouTube, and it went viral. People thought it was actually real. Back then, it was getting all these shares and likes and comments and arguments and disagreements over whether it was real or fake or not, and it's not because of how good it looked, it's because of how believable it looked. What's more interesting, elsewhere in the same film, we did include more obvious recreations, more traditional UFO visuals, more things that were on the nose. And those didn't hit the same way, and that was intentional. So now when people started to argue over whether or not the power plant one was real or not, they would go back to the film and say, well, why would they choose to make certain recreation moments look like they're straight out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, yet this one looks archival, it looks real. And that was the exact point, to show diversity of story, to show diversity of creative execution when it comes to witnessing something paranormal. Some stories are believable and grounded in earthly descriptions. Some of them get a little too crazy. Because when you do start to show everything as a filmmaker and as an artist, you leave nothing for the audience to discover. Think of a good book. You're left really with only the device of vocabulary and language and words. Your mind fills in the gaps, and many times reading a book is a more experiential way of engaging with a story than having it spoon-fed for you. And that is the lesson. Sometimes the most powerful creative choices is the restraint, not doing more, but doing just enough, and then enough to let the audience fill those blanks in, letting the audience lean into it, letting them question it, letting them feel it as they are part of it. Because storytelling isn't about overwhelming people, it's about engaging them. So whether you're editing, shooting, designing, remember this: less isn't a limitation, it's often a tool. It's all about perspective. And when you use it right, it can be a lot more powerful than doing the most overly obvious things. So keep things simple. Don't forget, less is often more.